Inside this small silver suitcase, the brutalized body of Sheila Van Wees Mack, mother to then 18-year-old Heather Mack. The girl now serving time in a Balinese prison for orchestrating her mom's murder with her boyfriend, Tommy.
What motivated this crime?
All her statements really suggest that she's motivated by money. She didn't want to work. She wanted to live the life she's always lived. That doesn't answer the question as to why did the money become more important than the life of her mother.
Ultimately, there was only one person who could answer that question: the killer herself.
We're on our way now to the place sometimes referred to as Hotel K, Karobakan Prison. She's agreed to see me as a visitor, so we're about to get a sense of what life is really like for an American murderer inside this notorious facility.
Unfortunately, we weren't able to get access inside of the prison, but we were still able to reach Heather for a few seconds by Skype before the reception went out, and then again by phone.
She so desperately wants to tell me her side of this story. Let's give it a go.
Hello?
Heather, it's Matt.
Yes. Hello,
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay, great.
One of the first things we wanted to ask her about, these now infamous images, many of them selfies taken from inside the prison, showing what appears to be Heather having the time of her life.
A lot of people might look at you, Heather, and say, this is a young woman, a young killer, they might say, with too many freedoms. It's been reported that you spend your days partying, that you're caught up in a salacious lesbian threesome in there, and basically you've got everything that you could want on the outside. Is there any truth to that?
I don't party. How would I party in a prison? You know, sometimes I listen to music, but I don't spend my days partying. I spend my days taking care of my daughter.
And to many, that might come as a surprise. Heather Mack is now the mother of a 2-year-old girl named Stella, a baby fathered by her co-conspirator, Tommy Schaefer. In fact, in details she says she's revealing for the first time only to us, Heather claims her pregnancy, along with Tommy's surprise arrival in Bali, are the two main factors that led to her mother's death. Now, with her baby in her lap, she tells us that story.
So Tommy rolls up and what, your mum just explodes?
Well, she didn't know at first. She was asleep, and of course I left the room. I snuck off to the beach with him, and she woke up, and that's when she went to the reception, and they said Tommy Schaefer checked in under your credit card, and she just went nuts. I just said, let's go to the room. When we went to the room, we went to sleep.
From there, she says, things only got worse.
I went to Tommy's room, and I just said, I don't know what to do. And he said, let me talk to her. And he looked at me and said, okay. And he came down, and it just escalated again.
To the extent that you can remember, what can you tell me about your mum's final moments?
This isn't even in the court transcript.
The point of no return came, Heather says, when she finally made that big announcement that she was pregnant with Tommy's child.
She was so angry. I told her I was pregnant, and she went around the room looking for a knife, and she was just screaming and screaming and telling me that that was when I was going to die, that was when I was going to die. And I said, Tommy, help me. And Tommy walked over to her, and she went and she grabbed Tommy's neck, and it wasn't hard. That Tommy could have shoved her off. Tommy could have run away. Tommy's a very strong man, but I was just screaming and screaming and screaming, and he just smacked her. Smacked her, smacked her, smacked her over and over and over and over and over. And I ran to the bathroom. I said, Tommy, what are we going to do? Tommy, what are we going to do? Tommy, what are we going to do?
What they did was wrap Sheila's body in duct tape and stuff her into a suitcase. But before we get to that, we wanted to try and understand how the relationship between mother and daughter got so bad in the first place.
I mean, give me an insight into what your childhood was like.
Yeah, it was not very healthy at all. My mother was an alcoholic. She was also diagnosed with multiple personality disorder. And the thing with my mother is that she just didn't want me. She didn't want Heather Mack how Heather Mack was.
Heather confirms things got only worse after her dad died, but says that even before that, it was a violent home life.
So I became extremely close to my father, and that also made her mad, and that drove her nuts. Because I took her husband to away from her. She would say something that hurt me. I would come home from school crying, tell my dad. My dad would hit her. Then she would hit my dad. Then I would see her hit my dad, and I would hit her. Then we would both hit her. And then it was just a pattern over and over and over and over and over until my father died, and then it got worse.
How do you mean?
Especially when I was pregnant. I was pregnant before Stella. She just went nuts. She would chase me around the house until 3, 4 in the morning with a knife, with a kitchen knife. Just saying, get the out of that room. Get the out of that room, you slut, before I have to stab the baby out of your stomach. Over and over, all night.
Shocking assertions, but Heather says it was this background that led her to where she is today.
That was where all the anger came from. I had all the toys and the money I wanted, but that isn't what makes a child happy. And I was extremely angry because of what was going on in my household. I go to school because I was up taking care of my drunk mother.
I understand.
So that's where all the anger, until now, I still have anger.
But then, Heather swears it wasn't any sort of callous anger that led to one of the most gruesome aspects of the crime.
What she does is fold her mother up like an accordion and put her into a suitcase. Unbelievable, with blood everywhere.
She was already dead, and I just was mental. And I was just hugging her and hugging her and hugging her. And I wouldn't let her go. And he just said, now we have to run. And I said, you are nuts. I'm not leaving my mother here. I will not leave her here. And he said, what the do you want to do? And I said, I want to bring her. He said, in what? And I said, in a suitcase. I'm not leaving her here. I just didn't want to leave my mother. I don't know. I have no idea where Heather Mack was at that moment.
But Heather says she knows precisely where she is now.
Most of the time, especially at night, I'm crying. Especially at night.
Can I ask you why you cry at night?
I miss my mother. Yeah, I miss my mother.
A lifetime of dysfunction, a surprise announcement, a tragic accident. Heather's series of events certainly paint a very different picture than the one the media has portrayed. But we still had a few questions, like how much of this was true? Coming up.
The police say there's a series of text messages, Heather, which go to that very motive.
The text messages.
Premeditation.
Can I play right back?
Sure.
More of our explosive interview and what the people who knew the Macks best have to say about it.
From Heather's point of view, it's not a murder at all. It was a deletion, as if you would delete a paragraph from a computer.